As you know, the Meat Eater Live Tour is on April 23rd through May 5th. Chances are in a town near you. What you may not know is you can win tickets to each of these events just by going to a backcountry hunters and anglers pint night. There's going to be a pint night in each of these towns: San Diego, Salt Lake City, Tempe, Anaheim, Boise, Sacramento, Missoula, Portland, Tacoma, where you can compete in Meat Eater trivia and win not only tickets to the show, but a chance to be on stage with all of us. So get your butt to a pint night, and we'll see you on stage.
Welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast, home of the modern whitetail hunter. And now, your host, Mark Kenyon.
Welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast. I'm your host, Mark Kenyon, and this week on the show, I'm joined by 4 hunters who've decided it's time to embrace being an okay hunter and all the fun, fumbles, and failures that come along with it. All right, welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast, brought to you by First Light. And today in the show, we're going to answer the question, is it okay to be a just okay hunter? I think there's something to be said. There's this idea, and I think a reality of sorts, that we're probably not all going to be a Mark Drury or a Dan Infalt or a John Dudley. And maybe there's something to be said. Maybe there's a benefit to embracing that reality, to accepting that reality to a degree, and finding how we can be our own kind of hunter. That's the discussion we're going to have here today. And I'm joined by four guys who have started a podcast and a community called The Okayest Hunter. And they're all about embracing this idea, embracing the fact that we're not all going to be the best hunters in the world. We're not all going to kill giant bucks every single year. And let's not kill ourselves trying to do that or trying to compare what we're doing to other people. Let's enjoy our hunt. Let's hunt our own hunt. And let's celebrate that. That's the message these guys are sharing. This is the message that I think I needed to hear. This is something that if you've been listening to the podcast over the last 6 months, you've kind of heard me going through some of my own kind of, debates and internal dialogues around what I personally want out of hunting and what my goals are and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And if you've listened for a long time, you know that I've always been a very goal-oriented person, very achievement-focused, very driven, always pushing to be the very best deer hunter I possibly can be, and just striving and pushing and not wanting to cut any corners and preaching the importance of not cutting corners and doing everything you possibly can. And sometimes that's a great thing. I think that's a really good thing and stuff I stand by. But sometimes that maybe can go too far. Sometimes maybe you can get to a point where you're so stressed about what you achieve or get when it comes to hunting, or you're putting so much pressure on yourself, or you're so focused on the outcome that you lose sight of your community and your friends and your family and the fun of hunting. If any of that stuff starts happening, I think maybe we've got a problem. And that's something that I've experienced personally myself. So talking to these guys, I got to thinking maybe it is okay to be okay sometimes. Maybe there's something to be said about actually having fun while you're hunting or going to breakfast with your buddies. Maybe it'll decrease your chances of failing a tag a little bit, but does that really matter? Those are some of the questions we're going to answer here today. I'm joined by Eric Clark, Derek Melchor, Tyler Meaden, and Greg Tubbs. These guys are a fun group. They've got a great perspective, I think, on this. And as I mentioned, I think it's a much needed perspective, as so much within our whitetail hunting community is so focused on killing big bucks and sharing your pictures online and people bragging about their big deer, people trashing other people about their small deer, or whatever it is. There's just a whole lot of craziness, I feel like, these days. And maybe this is just the antidote that we need. So I'm excited about this one. I really enjoyed the chat. I hope there's some of you out here that can benefit from this one too. I certainly did. So without any further ado, let's get to my chat with Eric, Derek, Tyler, and Greg, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks for listening. All right. With me on the show now, I've got a very full house. We've got Eric, Derek, Tyler, and Greg, the Okayest Hunter crew, coming to us from the bar and the basement to the studio of the Okayest Hunter, whatever you want to call it. These guys are already having a good time, it seems. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Mark. Cheers to that.
Yeah, I wish I was partaking, but like I said, it's 3:00 in the afternoon here where I'm recording, and I just had a coffee. So I don't know if mixing coffee with beer immediately is a good idea. I don't know if you guys have tried that, but
Mark, you're already pulling some rookie numbers there. You got to think ahead about this. And Irish coffee, man, you got to throw a little whiskey in there.
That's a good point. That's a proven commodity. You make a very good point. So you guys obviously know how to have a good time, but what I want to talk to you guys about, and you can each kind of individually give me your own take on this, but when I recorded the previous introduction to this, I shared with everybody about how I've had a little bit of a transformation in how I view my hunting and how I approach my hunting. And this is something that I've kind of been going through over the last 6 months to a year. And I've kind of coming around to rethinking my goals, the why and the how of how I hunt. And so I say all that because what I'm starting to appreciate more seems to be very in line with the theme of the brand you guys have started, the Okayest Hunter. And I guess maybe this is a question for whoever wants to talk the loudest, I guess. But why the Okayest Hunter? Why did you guys launch this brand, this movement, this idea? Why is it okay to just be okay at hunting? Who wants to take a stab?
They're all pointing at me. This is Eric.
This is Eric's wheelhouse right here.
I'm on the spot. So, really, at some point along the way, I had been a victim of, but, I took some shots at being shamed, for posting a doe fawn that I got with my bow. It was a 10-yard shot from the ground. It was very exciting. It was the year my daughter was born, so 2017. Don't make me do math on the Wired to Hunt podcast, but I'm 36 now. So I think I was 32. I was 32. Yeah. And so that was my first year with the bow, and I posted it, and people were just dogpiling on me. And then I felt this pit in my stomach like, wow, maybe I should be better by now, or like, why did I post that? Or what, maybe I do suck, or this is awful. And then somewhere along the way, shortly thereafter, I saw the same thing happen to a child. A kid posted a picture of like a button buck or something, and or like a spike, and they just got just a couple of people just happened to say you should have let it go or something like that. And I bought the domain name like 10 minutes later, and I'm a bit of a domain name hoarder, but that was the kind of the spark that lit the fire, and so we kind of led with no deer shame, no buck shame. We started to build this community. We started to hear from others that felt similarly and started to share their spike buck photos with us that had never seen the light of day before. And it opened up our eyes to say, wow, there's a lot of people here that, have experienced something like this or are afraid to. And that's probably not good for hunting as a collective. So that was it. I mean, that to answer your question, that was the start of it. And it's evolved quite a bit from there, but that was the kickoff.
So when you say an okay hunter, or the Okayest Hunter, how would you define an okay hunter? How would you guys define yourselves even?
Celebrate the failures. There's a lot of teachable moments there, and like learn to laugh at yourself. And if we think back to time before social media, no one cared. You just went out and you shot deer and you had fun. And I think it's trying to harken back to getting back to our roots is why we got into the stuff. Like, be a kid about it on a Christmas morning. As our friend down south says, Jared Norwood, shoot whatever gets your pee hot, for one way to put it. And it's this laughter that we're having right now. Like there needs to be more of that going on. So we leverage humor a lot, but everyone's at a different stage in their hunting journey, and that should be celebrated too. You don't know what someone else is going through. A lot of us here are raising families, or some of us are focusing on our careers, or maybe you're trying something new for the first time, or whatever it is. So it's just be cognizant of others.
And I'll jump in and say that where people are on their hunting journey, it's really hard to know that when you see one picture on social media that someone posts. I look at myself. I've gone through a real evolution as a hunter. This is Tyler, by the way. I should probably introduce myself.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I started hunting when I was 12. Was really blessed to have like this amazing property. We saw all these deer. I'm sitting there as a 12-year-old and trying to, wait for a certain like size of buck. And this is before social media. Like, this is how I started hunting. Very spoiled, very judgy of other hunters. And then like I started to evolve. I got into bow hunting about 8 years ago. And started to sit there, and I'm sitting there as I'm hunting and thinking about these deer that are walking by and what people might be saying if I posted that. What would they comment? What would they think? And that's just not healthy, right? I'm passing up opportunities to make memories. Why am I doing this? And then now I have 2 young kids, so the amount of time that I actually get to hunt is minimal. So right now, like, I'm just looking to put some meat in the freezer, right? That's what it's about for me as I look out the next couple of years and until my daughters get a little bit older and I can start taking them out with me and maybe get a little bit more time in the field. So it's, I look at it as, I've really evolved and gone more from someone who's trying to hunt a certain age class of buck to, more of an okayest hunter, or someone who's almost at the beginning stages. I look at myself and then I look at other people on social media and where they might be at. And the whole thing it's really interesting. And I've, Eric pitched the idea to me a few years ago. Was that 2019 maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
2019. And I was having all these thoughts and feelings about it. And I was like, I'm all in, let's go, and it started as, hey, end buck shaming. And it's now, for me, it's more about how do we make hunters feel comfortable in the community, no matter where they're at in their hunting journey.
And I'll jump in on that. This is Derek. I kind of look at it a little bit different way now than kind of when I got started with you guys just over a year ago. And going off of what Tyler said, like, you don't know where someone started their journey hunting, and they may have had the best of public land and hunting came super easy. They got a whole pile of deer when they're 15 years old. And that kid might look at another kid who's 15 who grew up with no one showing him the ropes, and he's hunting the piece of crap public land down the road because it's all he's got. And hunting is 2 totally different things for those 2 people. And instead of seeing okayest hunter as like okay as in not a great hunter, I see it as like it's okay no matter what kind of hunter you are. So like whether you're that public land hunter, the private land, like it's okay. As long as it's legal, it's okay, and celebrate it. Like what they said, like your journey, their journey, embrace where you are in it, and it's okay for other people to be where they are.
Yeah. What about you, Greg? What's your story, Greg?
My story, basically started hunting as a young guy too, 12 years old, had my hunter safety, succeeded on a turkey right away in the spring, whiffed at multiple deer, had, witnessed the worst cases of buck fever ever as I'm watching giant 10-pointers jump through fence rows. And, I love that stuff. And I had to take a break, got into tech school and went off and started a career. And I took a pretty long break from deer hunting, did a bit of duck and continued on with turkey, but I always enjoyed it no matter what. And I hunted with people of all different skill levels, and, they all treated me pretty much the same. We're all respectful of each other. And it's the same with this group. I'm not the best hunter here. I've not killed the most and biggest deer, but I really enjoy it. I enjoy the camaraderie. And like these guys had said, it's okay to be okay. It's okay to celebrate it. And everybody's journey is different.
Yeah, what's interesting is like listening to all of your stories and from my own experience and talking to other people and stuff. One thing that seems to stand out so much is just the impact of comparison. Comparing what we are doing or what we have done or what we've quote unquote achieved or got or whatever, comparing that to others. And I don't know if this is something that is just, it is human nature, I guess. I was going to say, I don't know if this is human nature, but this is human nature. But I think it's human nature that has been amplified by technology and social media, right? I mean, if you were to look back 25 years ago, there would be a little bit of like, a little bit of that dick measuring contest, earmuffs to the kids, but like that kind of thing at the bar, right? A couple people put out a picture from their wallet and they say, I got this big buck. And so like locally in a group of like 20 people, maybe you'd be like telling stories and comparing this or that or whatever. There was a little bit of that kind of thing going on. But now we aren't just pulling out a picture from the wallet and showing two guys at a table. It's you're talking to thousands of people on Instagram, or you're talking on a podcast to people, or you are sharing something on Facebook that can go viral or be posted on some message board or some forum or some Facebook group. And so many people see this thing, and so many people that don't even know you personally. So previously, you were only sharing your experiences and kind of going back and forth with people you had a relationship with and a history with and who cared about you. But now this stuff's being shared across the world to a bunch of random people that have no connection to you, no understanding of you. And also there's no, all the downsides that come with general social media trolling as well. So all of these things, I think, have amplified this idea of not just being able to live your own experience, but your experience in part being, what am I trying to say here? Your experience inevitably is always going to be in some way compared to others. Like that's kind of a human thing. We can't help but look at what we have in comparison to others. But now that sample size is huge and full of a bunch of a-holes. And I think that is this crazy new sensation that we're dealing with that has really, really profoundly impacted hunting in the last 10, 15 years, something like that.
Yeah, it's competitive human nature. Everybody wants to either do better for themselves or maybe prove that they're better than, the next guy. And some people take it another step further and they brag about it. They put it out there and either they get shamed for it or a pat on the back.
And I think a lot of times on social media, there's times when this is happening and it's not even inherently bad. Like someone's not trying to shame you or like troll you, but like when a young person or a newer hunter or anyone for that matter shoots a 6-pointer, then someone says, "Oh, hey, nice buck. Would have been a beauty in a year or two." Like that's a nice comment. They're trying to be nice. They're not trying to shame them. But to that person who maybe just took their biggest or first deer, it doesn't feel like a congratulations.
No.
It doesn't feel like a pat on the back because it's got that comparison.
It's a nice job, but I'm going to kick you in the ass on the way out. Anyway.
Just
Well, what's worse is the people, themselves that say not the biggest, but so they're already doing themselves. They're already going on defense before they even get it out into the freeway of social media.
It's too bad.
And it's like, well, if it was big enough for you to shoot, then celebrate it and respect the animal, by the way, to some degree, because now you're doing that animal a disservice. You're doing yourself a disservice. And the folks that don't even share at all, it's like because they don't even want to deal with it. It's not even worth the anxiety that's going to come with that. So,
there's always a keyboard cowboy somewhere.
Yeah, it's Eric. It's almost
truth.
they're like protecting themselves from any type
you're
of
forecasting the what's going to come down the hill. For sure.
The worst part is they're protecting themselves from other hunters.
Yes,
people who are supposed to be one of the same community, right?
Yes.
Like that's what they're protecting themselves from.
But we're going to forever have to deal with that.
We're trying to change it.
We're trying.
We're trying to help.
So what do you think if we were to point the finger at the source of this problem, this kind of virus inside the community, is this stemming from like the media? Is this because the mainstream hunting media has perpetuated an idea of what you're supposed to do, and they make it look so easy and they make it look like big bucks are everywhere? And is it that? Is it like this pornographication of hunting, or is it instead the social media aspect and just like people, like just regular people being trolls and all that? Is it the comparison thing and everyone trying to be cooler on social media? Like, if you guys were to try to trace this back to its source, do you have a theory on that, or is it really a combination of all the above and something else too?
Yeah, it's a yes out of the gate, but I think the core issue is ego and human nature, which we talked about. I read a book, The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene, and it's a very long book about human nature, but you can start to see some common themes that root back to the beginning of time. And I've also read the book Ego is the Enemy about too many times.
Good one.
And so that is the main theme, that there's ego in hunting. There's ego in everything, but ego in hunting in itself is particularly rampant among this type of, people are really visceral about hunting. We have really strong opinions because it's tied to our heritage and our family ties. And so different opinions clash really loudly in our space. I'll say social media it's just magnified what's always been there. It's just shining a light on something that's the human nature that's always been there. And to your point about the hunting industry and these, grip and grins and the pros doing certain things on TV, it's unfortunate that, the platform that they have and have had for some time, doesn't allow for showing mistakes because the reach that it has. And, if you're on cable television and someone just happens to scroll through and stop and they see you, wounding an animal and making a joke about it or something like that, that show's going to get shut down. So even though they're making those mistakes, they're just not showing them at all. So something for us is a little bit of contrast is, again, well, that's our focal point. We're focusing on I dropped the thing down the tree stand that played Plinko. I forgot my release. I tripped into this thing. All the common mistakes that even the best hunters have made, which is something that we call okayest moments. Even if you're not like a complete okayest hunter by our definition, you've still done some stuff that you can laugh at that pissed you off in the moment. Years later, it's a great story to tell. So I think, to your point, the answer is yes to those things. I think ego is the core of it. And then a lot of that has just perpetuated out these other systemic problems. But we ought not to be the head butting the neck off within our own community.
Yep. And I'll add, I think, for me, as I look at it, I think it can be a lack of perspective from people, right? You've hunted in this same county on the same farm or this same piece of public, and whether it's good or whether it's bad, we don't understand that people are in different circumstances, right? You could have a hunter who's up in northern Wisconsin, big woods, low population to deer hunting or low population of deer numbers, and what they define as success, or
someone in a CWD zone is going to have different decisions to make than
exactly. Their definition of a shooter buck is different than my definition of a shooter buck if I'm hunting in Buffalo County, Wisconsin.
I'm curious if something I experienced recently is something you guys have experienced that kind of led you to where you are now with this. Where I'd gone so deep down this wormhole we're talking about, where I've been so obsessed with trying to achieve these goals and looked at it like a mission that I had to spare no expense and if I took an ounce of time off, I felt bad because I wasn't giving it everything I possibly could. And if I wasn't doing everything perfect, I was awful on all these things. And I'd made, this hunting thing into, well, I guess I'm in a unique situation. I was going to say I've made it into my job, but it is my job.
Hey, well done.
So maybe my story doesn't really work, but
teach me how to do that?
Yeah, teach us, please.
But what I'm trying to say is that I had gone so deep into putting all this pressure on myself, and whether I wanted to admit it or not, I was comparing myself to other people or judging myself negatively because I wasn't like other people. Yada 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 yada. All of that led me to going on a lot of outings or trips or having a lot of moments where I was not having fun hunting anymore. I was losing the fun of this thing. And that was what I think helped jolt me out of this is kind of realizing that and realizing that it's not worth losing the fun of this thing that has been so transformational in my life in a good way. Have any one of you guys had anything, you could have come to it in a different way. It might have lost its fun because of the negativity in the community or anything like that. But have you guys ever had a moment where you started to worry about losing the fun? And is that part of what jolted you into this new way of looking things? Anyone, does that resonate?
I think that didn't jolt us into this, but this helped us shed that skin. Okayest Hunter as a brand that we're working in and building and so forth and spending time on and seeing and talking to folks helped us realize that. Ryan Holiday, again, another reference, stillness is a key, talks about being present and being in the moment and appreciating that. And I found myself getting mad at deer, by the end of which probably wasn't terrible because I'm really motivated to kill the thing. But I was like, well, this is wrong. I'm taking the joy out of it because I wasn't getting the results that I wanted even after the effort. It's like studying for a test, taking the test and still doing bad. It was but deer hunting isn't a test. Maybe it is to some degree. You can test yourself in certain scenarios and measure things, but there's no guarantees. There's no guaranteed outcome. You can put in all the effort in the world. I mean, Derek, you hunted your ass off last season. What'd you get? Yeah.
Come on.
You know,
That was it, yeah.
Right. So, but and that's just how it goes. But that's the joy of it, is the process. And again, when you start to really enjoy that process and all the preparation, it's like tailgating for a baseball game. Half the fun isn't sitting in the stands and get a home run. Don't get me wrong, that's a great part. But half the fun is like getting ready, buying the brats, like cooking out with your friends, playing bag toss, playing catch, walking to the stadium, having some peanuts, getting some nachos. Like all of that stuff can be replaced with hunting terminology, and we're in a very similar situation. And if they happen to strike a home run, if we happen to see a deer and actually make a connection on it, that's just bonus. It should always be bonus.
Mark, I can relate to what you experienced to a degree, obviously not to your degree. I would say 2016, I think I shot my first buck with a bow. It's 2016. Yeah, I think it's 2016. And by 2018, I was like, pressing so hard during the season, it wasn't fun anymore. And it sucked. I got to the end of the season, I was burned out and didn't have a deer to show for it. And I was miserable. I was glad that the season was over instead of missing it.
It's hard on the family too.
It is. It's so hard on the family. And, and that's when like the next year, the next summer is when, I met Eric and we started talking about this, and it was like, this is what I need personally as a hunter so that I can go out, be okay with making mistakes, be okay with not shooting the biggest buck, be okay with maybe not feeling my tag, which is probably more of the norm than anything else. And that opened up, as Eric said, it shed the skin. It made it okay for me personally. And I've enjoyed hunting much more since we've started this.
We all get served a piece of humble pie with a side of tag soup every year. So,
and Mark, I know you said you're kind of in the process of, like this realization of trying to make hunting back like fun and the way you remembered it. And this is kind of what happened to me. I take whitetail deer hunting more seriously than I absolutely should. And anyone knows me, like that's all I really think about and do.
Man's ridiculous.
I give Greg like Greg is an outdoorsman. Like he hunts ducks, he loves all this stuff. I do that because I'm trying to like occupy a little tiny bit of my life away from deer because I'm always thinking about it.
I drag them out on the boat every once in a while. We try to go chase salmon and trout on Lake Michigan. So
about 5 years ago, I started hunting and realizing that I was like feeling the pressure to kill one, not for myself, but just because like I felt pressure to produce because people think of me as like a deer hunting guy.
Yeah.
So like holy crap, what the hell am I doing? Like I'm trying to kill this deer like so I can get a kill, like because that's what I'm supposed to do. And what helped me kind of get past that, because it really was a bad feeling, like it was a terrible realization. But I had a good buddy who was a fishing friend, and he asked me, he's like, dude, can I start bow hunting with you? And I was like, that would be awesome. So the process of like taking him through and kind of teaching him and letting him have like all those okayest moments totally like reinvigorated why I do it and like what I enjoy about it. And now Adam is probably crazier than I ever was about it. But like just kind of stepping back and taking my own like, pressure and drive out of it and helping someone get started just totally changed the way I looked at something I'd been doing my whole life.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. And that's something I've experienced too the last few years, is just how much fun it is to not only help other people and teach with other people, but just experience it with other people again. I mean, I think for a lot of us, and I might be speaking just in my own case, but I think for a lot of people, we come into hunting in some kind of community fashion, right? There's deer camps, or there's family friends, or there's a buddy that takes you out, whatever. And so a lot of people's hunting journeys start with that kind of camaraderie. And that's a big part of why we love it. That's a big part of why I loved it, was going up to my family deer camp and being up there with my dad and grandpa and uncles and the guys. And I mean, that was so great. But for me, at least, and I think this is a relatively common trend for some people, the deeper you get into it, the more hardcore you get. Once I got to like this Terminator mode I was in, it was like, well, I can't afford to go to the deer camp because the deer hunting there isn't that good anymore. So I need to be on a solo mission to Iowa to hunt 7 days straight. And even though my other friends are going to stop midday to eat lunch and get together for breakfast or whatever and BS, I need to be out there every hour of the day. So I'm going to spend all of my time in the tree, yada, yada, yada. So now all of a sudden I went from what used to be a community camaraderie kind of thing to all of a sudden now I'm like a solo assassin that doesn't have time for anybody else, and I lost that. So just trying to reclaim like the community fun part of it is something that I've realized is such a huge thing too.
Yeah, it's like deer hunting is like trying to solve a puzzle, an endless puzzle. And the more pieces you find, the more fun it becomes, the harder it seems to get. It's like perfecting a golf swing. You could probably put me on a golf course, and I've never done it before, and I could probably learn pretty quick how to get a ball down the what's it called?
The
Fairway?
Fairway.
How much I don't go
Off the green and down the fairway.
Yeah,
Love a good
but
golf
at some
analogy.
point you get so good that eventually you get in the red zone, right? Like it gets harder to move the ball across the next goalpost because it's compressed. It's really hard. And one of the things that I think I wrote about on our website, and maybe it's something you put in your show notes or something, but we have an article called "Okayest Hunter Becoming Okayer." Maybe this is a little bit of you, but we mentioned an MMA champion, Frank Shamrock, that talked about a system that he used to train his fighters called plus minus equals. And all it meant was like have someone that's better than you that you can look up to as a mentor, like that person can mentor you. Have someone that's not as good as you that you can teach, because by teaching someone to do something, you are instilling something in your mind in a way that like is really locking in that information. And have someone that's equal to you that you can spar with. And obviously in the context of fighting, you can imagine if you always got in a ring with someone better than you, you'd get your ass kicked all the time. You'd have no confidence. If you only fought with someone that's not as good as you, you'd have too much. You'd probably be cocky. You'd beat the crap out of someone all the time. And having that person that's equal to you to spar with, like, really is that building, that sparring, that sharpening of steel versus steel. And in deer hunting, I'm sure we all have someone that we could look up to that, like, wow, they're really doing their style matches my style. Their terrain and where they're at is kind of where I'm at. This looks similar. I can learn from that person. I think we as hunters all have something we can teach someone else. Even if you just hunted for a single day in your life, you probably learned something with your unique perspective on the world that you could teach someone else. And obviously having someone that you can spar with. I think, Greg, you and I are, for not that, I don't know. I think you're better than me, but I think we're equal in some ways, and
one hand washes the other, man. I mean, not everybody is going to be always evenly matched.
Yes.
But be humble and wherever, you and I go hunting, I try to help you out in any way I can. And you'll look at whatever I'm doing and go, hey, maybe you should do it this way, and just take it as constructive criticism.
Yep.
And work together.
So, yeah, I think, Mark, that, getting to be okay is definitely okay. And Derek's point about teaching someone else, reinvigorating him, that's a very tactical way to say, hey, let's see if this jostles it loose. Let's see if this kind of brings me back to my roots.
Yeah.
As you know, the Meat Eater Live Tour is on April 23rd through May 5th. Chances are in a town near you. What you may not know is you can win tickets to each of these events just by going to a backcountry hunters and anglers pint night. There's going to be a pint night in each of these towns: San Diego, Salt Lake City, Tempe, Anaheim, Boise, Sacramento, Missoula, Portland, Tacoma, where you can compete in Meat Eater trivia and win not only tickets to the show, but a chance to be on stage with all of us. So get your butt to a pint night, and we'll see you on stage.
What do you guys think of? What do you think the scale of this feeling? Like, if we were to describe this feeling or this set of concerns or whatever, this thing that you guys have, this theme you've kind of developed your group around and that I'm tapping into here as we discuss this, what's the scale of that across our community? I mean, I think there's one side of me that says, gosh, there's got to be a lot of this. And there's another part where, I remember, 10 years ago or something, when I was just getting really, really, really into it. And I remember scrolling through Facebook or Instagram during the hunting season, and it seemed like every single person on the internet was an expert deer hunter, and everybody was killing the biggest buck of their dreams, and everyone was so good, and I was the only person that could possibly be struggling. I think sometimes for people it can feel that way when they look online. Do you think there's a lot of people that feel this way, or are there a lot of people that are crushing it, that like going super hardcore and aren't concerned about any of this kind of stuff and just want to keep on killing big bucks? And
That's a life. It could be some guy that does concrete for a living and he's off in winters, so he's got all the time in the world. And maybe it's some people have built the life that they want to live, and if you've been fortunate to do that, time in the woods is something that not all of us can afford I think the okayest hunters of the hunting community outnumbered the experts by and large.
Yeah, I
That's
think
true with everything. Like,
you want to do a math problem?
You know,
I'll say
no.
2/3 of them, 2/3 of us hunters are probably okay, and the other third are, upper echelon hunters. Because they have the time, or they have the property, or all the
How many
combination.
people watch football versus play in the NFL?
Right. There you go.
There's a lot of people that play in the NFL, but boy, oh boy, there's way more fans that, just love being in it.
One thing I've noticed, and I always take this as a pretty good gauge, just my experience, I'm always parking in public parking lots. I hunt public land all the time. That's all I hunt. And the camaraderie in the parking lot. Like, you talk about camaraderie with your family, the hunting community, but like the people who share the land with you are your community too. And when I was younger, man, I remember opening days in Wisconsin. Somebody would be pulling out a buck, and guys would be kicking dirt, smashing rocks. Can't believe that guy got, just pissed that this, somebody else got their deer. And what I've noticed in the last 5 years, and
their deer,
their deer, right? They had it on camera over their corn pile at midnight. That was his buck. And I remember being younger and just going, what the hell is wrong with these people? Like, why can't they be happy? The deer's dead.
Right.
Like, just say good job and like move on.
Yep. Time to go find your deer.
The last 5 or 6 years, I have talked to more people in parking lots that were friendly than I ever have before. And I would credit a lot of that to what the hunting public guys are doing, because they put out when they talk to people. They don't skip that part of their video. They put it in there, and I think that's helping build the community. And a lot of more people are open to other hunters and building camaraderie with the people they're sharing land with. And that's a very good thing.
Yeah, I think there were over 800,000 deer hunting licenses sold last year in the state of Wisconsin between gun, bow, crossbow. I would guess a majority of those are okayest hunters, and the small minority, 10% are expert hunters.
Yeah,
that's my.
If you compared that to the numbers harvested, you're gonna probably find that out.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's people hunting for content too, like literally people that go out with camera crews and they hunt for content, and I don't think that's inherently bad necessarily. Like, if it gets someone into hunting when they stick with it, great. That's probably not too many, but some of those people are like literally changing shirts and taking separate pictures, or getting third people in and changing the scenery. Like, that's a whole different issue. But like, to your point about what we're seeing on social media, that's no different than the fake millionaires that go rented a car, Lamborghini, and hold a couple bills in front of it and say, "You want to get rich?" Like, that's similar. Like, you want to kill big deer? It's there's always going to be that kind of stuff going on. So just be careful of what you're looking at on the internet, or know that, like, hey, maybe that person hunts full time. Yeah. The hunting public, that's their gig. They're in the woods more than most people. They can afford it. That's what they do.
So here's a question, a little devil's advocate kind of question, I suppose. I've always looked at hunting as, and again, certain people this would resonate with, some people it wouldn't. But for me, I have always had a theory that most human beings need something to push them. They need a challenge, they need a goal, they need something to be working towards. And inherently, we enjoy ourselves more when we are growing as human beings, when we're pushing past an obstacle, when we are being challenged to learn new things, to try new things, to struggle and to get through it. And so I have looked at hunting as being like a really, really good avenue for that kind of personal growth. Like, that for me has been like the iron that has sharpened iron for me. I thought, man, hunting is this activity that I can do that is not just fun, but it's actually making me a better, more fulfilled person, because I have this thing I have to work hard at, and I have to constantly get better at it, and I have to push through these things. And so I've looked at it as like a personal growth tool as well, that it served that function at least. And as I've just been like kind of going through this evolution myself, I've had like some self-talk where I'm thinking through all this, and I'm thinking, okay, does this mean that I relax my goals? Does this mean I settle? Does this mean I'm not striving for whatever it was in the past? And is that okay? Am I getting lazy? Is this like a fancy way of just being lazier? Or is this just an excuse? Am I making excuses for myself for not doing as good as I could have, or for not trying as hard as I could have, or for, you know what I'm saying? Like, these are like some questions in the back of my mind that I'm just exploring with myself. And I'm curious, what do you say to that? If someone out there is listening and they're saying like, okay, yeah, a lot of these things resonate with me, but at the same time, man, I also hear other people who are reminding me that, man, if you want to achieve something special or that means something to you, you have to work hard. You have to be willing to push through the tough times. And maybe these things do matter to people. So I'm curious, across that large sweeping set of ideas, does any of that make sense? Do you guys have thoughts on that and where the okay hunter might be able to land in this mix?
Yeah, I think so. A mentor of mine did an exercise with me. He drew 4 circles on a piece of paper, and each circle represented a thing I was working on, right? Different objectives and projects I had going on in my life. And he said, you can move these 4 balls or circles down the field, right? You kick this one, you kick that one, you kick this one, you'll get there. It can happen. You can certainly do it. But you could focus on 1 or 2 of them, and you could do it a lot faster. And once you get one of those all the way down the field to the goalpost, which you're trying to do, maybe it's shoot 150-inch deer. Maybe that's one of those goals. But these other competing things that are also important in my life matter also. So focus on prioritizing whatever one is the most important at this stage in life that you have the most resources and capabilities to do and accomplish. And who's to say you can't, life is long, in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, go back and do that other ball, that other thing. So for me right now, when I consider family, well, that is the most important thing. My kids are going to be young once. And I don't want to be the dad that couldn't go to this or couldn't go to that because I had to go chase that deer. Like, I'm not going to have that conversation with them when they're older, when they're not going to know their dad. So I'm going to be a dad first and foremost. And guess what? When they're older and they can come with me, when they're in college and off living their own lives like I am now, they don't have all the time in the world to go do that other goal and kill that big deer. So it's a matter of perspective, priorities, and how you prioritize them. And it's not to say that I can't work as hard as I possibly can at something. I agree with the sentiment that, we like to be pushed and that brings out the best in us, but it depends on what that thing is. And it doesn't mean that you can't do it later. You can always get to it later. And maybe by doing the first thing, you'll have more time, energy, and resources. If I'm focused on building a business, maybe I'm building a life that I want, and I'll be able to fund a hunt in other states and go chase bigger deer than I've ever could have done if I just kept trying to do it now and let the other stuff die in the vine. So that's a unique perspective that I like to offer.
And I'll add, I think it's, you got to do what makes you happy, right? So if you're burning out chasing 150-inch deer and it's going to make you happy to quote unquote settle for 130-inch deer, then do what makes you happy. For me, I'm thinking about, this past season, my daughter was born November 13th. So I got to bow hunt a total of maybe 5 days. And I did not go out at all during gun season. And so, just perspective, right? I wasn't going to sacrifice any of that time. And so I knew if any deer walked by that had antlers, I was probably going to draw back on it, right? And I knew that.
Didn't you? And then you missed one?
Yes. Let's not talk about it.
Hey, to talk about it, Tyler.
Yeah,
that's true. It is true.
Let's get these feelings out there.
I think we're running out of time here, though, so let's keep moving this conversation along.
I like that.
So, this next year, right, I don't know, this coming season, I don't know how much time I'm going to have. But Derek's point, in 5 years, I might have more time where I can push myself a little bit more. Before I had kids, I spent a ton of time in the stand. Right, unsuccessfully most of the time, but I spent a ton of time in the stand and tried to push myself. But right now, I know I can't do that, and it's going to make me happier to spend time with my girls than it is for me to sit there and grind in a tree stand.
Yeah, Craig, do you have a thought there?
Well, I could just share my experience from last year. We know what I was chasing.
Yeah, the mega.
Yeah, I had an opportunity that just didn't quite pan out. It was public, so there was other guys. I'm fairly confident. I'm very certain that they knew that deer was in there, and that area was getting more and more pressure by the week as the season progressed. And it got to the point where every time I turned around, I was finding another cell cam, another scent drag, another bag, another plastic bag laying there from whatever snack they were eating. And no matter what I did, the sign was getting less and less going through certain areas. And then I did have to settle. I decided it was just time to leave that area and go somewhere else to another area that I felt confident in. And I took a buck there instead. Was it the monster that I was after? No, but I made a hell of a memory going in there, stand on my back, do what I do, and followed the sign in, hung, and killed that right away. It went well. So it was okay to be okay then.
Probably a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I was driving to Pennsylvania to hunt, and I got a text from Greg, and it was a picture of a deer. I was like, holy crap, he did it. I was so jacked.
And we get so used to, like, I get to talk to these guys every week about hunting and stuff we love. And usually your buddies, they're kind of like-minded like you are. So like most of my friends I talk about hunting are very driven to get a big buck. But talking with one of my coworkers who, I'm a hunter, and I'm like, oh, good, another hunter. I can talk to him. We have cafeteria duty together, so I get to spend some time with him. And he's explaining to me, the hunting, he goes out for Wisconsin gun season. Awesome. I'm like, soaking it in. Like, what do you do? What do you hunt? And, he finds a spot to sit on the ground. I'm going to the library this week. I check out a couple of my favorite books. I just sit out there and read. I was like, oh, do you get any deer? Sometimes. And I was like, that's
what he enjoys.
But that's a tradition. It's a tradition. Yeah.
And that's okay. Like, some guys have huge goals. I know all of us, we have goals every season of what we'd like to do. Some people, their goal is just to get out and enjoy nature because that's not what he does.
You know how loud 3
kids
are?
And that's okay, right? That's like the whole perspective thing. Like, you don't know what his situation is. He doesn't know mine. He doesn't understand how I think about deer hunting. Is not, let me pick out a good book for my deer stand. Because I just don't do that. Like,
I think it's a great idea. I like
he's
it.
for something else. But that was like really eye-opening. Like, talking to him, it's like, holy cow, not all hunters think this.
No, not at all.
I think it was Tyler who said it first, or whoever it was. It's hard to keep track of you guys over there, but someone just brought up the fact that, it might be settling for one person, but if it's fun, it's fun. And I think that is becoming like my like North Star is aiming towards what's fun and trying to avoid what's not. And if a goal is no longer a fun goal to chase, then what's the point of, sharpening your axe to chase something that's actually not fulfilling for you at all? But I mean, I think this is something that I'm just seeing more and more. I think this is a growing trend in our community because, while everyone talks about how hunter numbers are down, relatively have been going down over the last 5, 10, 15 years, whatever it is. People talk a lot about how we're losing hunters. That's true, but I think that the number of people that are taking it really, really seriously is growing pretty substantially. So the number of people who, like you, Derek, or me, who like your life revolves around whitetails and everything goes into it, and you don't go to the library to grab a book to sit in the ground on opening day, right? There's a whole lot more people that are spending lots of money to get their saddles and their sticks dialed in, and they've got everything taped up, and they know every little patch and corner of public land where there could be a big buck, and they've got their cell cameras all over the place. Like, the number of people that go that far with it, that group is growing. But I do think that group, where there's a lot of growing interest and excitement, there is also this growing pressure and stress that people are putting on themselves because they think, if I've invested this much time, if I've invested this much energy, if I'm a part of this community that values this thing, I have to be getting this thing. And I can tell you, just like within my own little personal circle of like good hunting buddies, I have so many good hunting buddies who we all claim to love this thing. We all, we're grouped because we love this thing. There's so many times during the hunting season where people are complaining about, I hate this. Why am I doing this? I should be out golfing. I'm going to take up ice fishing a month and a half early now. Because everyone's just driving themselves crazy, worrying about, doing something wrong or messing up the hunt or somebody else screwing up their hunt or how come everyone else is getting it. There's just so many stories and examples and people I can think of, and myself included in certain examples, where we're sucking the fun out of it by virtue of pressure, too much goals, too much stress, too much whatever, comparison. There's all these different like vultures sitting on the power line, looking down at our carcass on the ground, just waiting to come in and take a bite. And I guess my question then is, if the solution is to embracing an okay hunter mindset, whether you're a really good hunter or you're not, I think there's an idea here of like an okay hunter mindset. What's the key to doing that? Like, what's the key? How can I become a successful, quote unquote, okayest hunter? That being someone who's, embracing the idea of having fun, embracing the mistakes, embracing the balance, embracing the good and the bad, all that kind of stuff. What have you guys found, both with yourselves personally and maybe hearing from other people in your community, with kind of chasing this new goal of how we approach hunting? How do we do that better?
Two things come to mind, and it, as cheesy as it's going to sound, there's 2 hashtags that we use. One of them is my tag, my hunt. And at that rate, I bought the tag with my money. It's literally my hunt. So I'm going to do what I want with it. And therefore, I should think the same towards others. It's their tag and it's their hunt. And if we stop focusing on what other people are doing with their tag, we can then focus on what we're doing with ours to make ourselves feel more fulfilled. And if that spreads enough and people focus inward rather than outward, and that, like, if that were to scale, if that was like something that could actually scale, more people would stop ridiculing others and there'd be less fear of being ridiculed, and it would alleviate some of that pressure. It'd be a bit of a relief valve to then, it would kind of, fix some of that issue, I suppose. And the other one is never pass. And that's a stark contrast to people saying, let it walk. But what we're really trying to say is never pass on doing what makes you happy, or never pass on making a memory, or never pass on a chance to fill your freezer. Again, tying this into your hunt and focusing inward can really help a lot. And I think, Tyler, you made one of the posts of stop caring what about people you don't know, judge your hunt, or I don't know how you worded it, but why do we care about people we don't know judging our hunts? Like, it just doesn't matter. Why should that matter?
And I think to that point, they're not judging your hunt.
You're right.
The my tag, my hunt, like when you see a picture on Facebook, you're judging the kill, the outcome. And what do hunters always say? It's not about the outcome, it's about the hunt. Mm-hmm. People don't know what your hunt was. They don't know what your story was. They don't know what that deer did. They've got you so excited, right? They're just judging the kill. My tag, my hunt, like, you don't know someone else's hunt? Don't judge it. Don't judge it based on the kill.
Yeah. And I'll jump in. Then you go, Greg. Sorry.
It's fine.
You talk about relieving the pressure. I think, we use humor a lot in our messaging because I think laughter is a good cure for some of the frustrations that happen during hunting season.
You bet.
Yeah, we try to be really, really relatable, because this stuff happens to everything you see on our social is like something that has happened to us. Yes. It's very relatable. And we started to realize, like, well, gosh, we're not the only ones dealing with this stuff. So that relatability is really carried on. But Greg, I don't think you had a couple points here.
Yeah, no, I got one other point, another hashtag to add to the call it number 3 hashtag is shoot deer. If you haven't had a whole lot of experience shooting deer, you haven't had a whole lot of experience tracking deer, you want to get good at that, you need to shoot deer. I mean, I went on a long dry spell of not killing anything with my bow. And all of a sudden, as a service technician out in the field, I had one customer that had a doe problem. It was a suburban area. And that really helped me hone my shooting skills, how to shoot deer, how to wait for them to move a certain way, and when I can draw, and how high I should set my tree stand in certain situations. And, there's a lot of learning that went on there. And I went on a really awesome, tirade of just knocking deer down. So take that advantage, or take advantage of that and shoot them when you can. If you have a doe tag, why are you not using it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who... Sorry. I was just going to say, I think there's a lot of people who, because of what's portrayed on the media or seen on social media, it's easy to think like that it's, even when you're just starting, you have to be holding out for a big buck or whatever. And because of that, like you just said, Greg, you pass up on so many opportunities to learn, so many opportunities to get better because you think you have to hold out. I mean, I had this exact problem. First off, as a kid growing up, I thought I had to shoot a buck for my first deer. So I passed up on 1,000 does as a kid and never shot anything until I was like 18 or 19 because I wanted that first deer to be a buck. So that was my first problem. And then I killed that first buck, second buck, and I think after killing my third buck ever, at that point, I had consumed enough hunting media and seen enough stuff out there that I thought, okay, I can't shoot 1.5-year-old bucks anymore. I can only shoot 3 or older bucks. I have to shoot big bucks now. So I'd only killed 3 deer, and now I'm trying to shoot a relatively mature buck and thinking that was what I had to do. And I probably had a whole lot more learning I could have done. I had a whole lot I could have grown from and enjoyed, had a lot of fun if I had, enjoyed those introductory years more. versus immediately trying to jump to somewhat, expert level status because I thought that's what you had to do. I don't think I'm alone in that.
Managing expectations is a big thing that I think a lot of new hunters is
tough.
With the YouTube and in the hunting videos. One thing I always think about, and Greg knows, he's going to know the guy when I mention it, but he and I went down to Public in Illinois and we're doing some hunting, and we ran into a guy just outside of one of the parking lots. We got out, we started scouting. There's another car in the parking lot, but it was midday, so we were pretty sure maybe this guy was walking around.
Yep.
We'd only made it 150 yards.
Yeah, if that, from the truck.
And we ran into the guy. I thought, good, we can talk to him, see if he's going in or out so we don't mess him up. So we go over, and he was a first deer hunter, just started, and the guy had the crispy boots, brand new, first light setup, brand new Matthews V3. Like, this guy had done some serious research and watched all the right things. Like, I think about him all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, I wonder how that season went for him.
I do too.
You've invested this much and I'm sure this guy.
He had to have $3,000 worth of equipment just on him right
It was
then and there.
unbelievable. And he's like, yeah, I never hunted before. And I was like, I hope he finds some sort of fun or happiness in the hunt. Because, boy, that would be a really crappy way to realize you don't like hunting after buying what he bought,
So true. And I don't think that guy's alone in that. I think there's probably a lot of people that have taken that same path, and it's great to see that excitement, but there's a whole lot more to it than having just the right gear. That's for sure. So what about, let's lean into a little bit more about, like, if we were to generalize a lot of what I feel like you guys are talking about here, it's like focusing on the fun, removing the stress, or finding that pressure release valve or whatever, because those might be like the two conflicting energies that are kind of streaming through hunting as like your personal hunting journey, and then like the community, right? There's like the fun side, and then there's like this pressure or stress that goes along with it. And we can kind of go leaning more into the stress side, or we can lean more into the fun side. I'm curious if you guys have any other like tactical advice for how to do this. Like an example being, one thing that I've always thought that would make me a lot happier during hunting season would be to remove Facebook and Instagram from my phone and everything during hunting season, so that I would never know what anybody else was doing. I would never have anything to compare against. I would never have any reason to feel like I'm not doing that great, because I would never see any of the other stuff, and I would never worry about having to post a picture and someone dogging me about whatever. Like, that's like a tactical thing somebody could do that might just be a pressure release valve to kind of remove yourself from that negativity. I can't do that, but I'm curious if there's any things that you guys do or have thought about that have helped you kind of lean into the fun side of being an okay hunter, or release whatever pressure or stress there might have been in the past for you guys. Or maybe it's something totally different.
Honestly, it's our community. For me, it's knowing that here's a terrible example, which is I'm notorious for doing this. So I apologize for doing this. But here we go. Listen to this. So we're going tomorrow morning at 5:00. We're leaving with my 3 kids, my kids' grandparents, and it's going to be a fun trip on a Disney cruise. And
yikes!
What is great about that? yeah. So, right. But hear me out. So we went to Disney a couple years back when we just had our daughter, and my wife was pregnant with our son. So now we're like outnumbered. We're playing zone coverage, not man to man. But the point is, going on that trip versus something like a Royal Caribbean or whatever, we're going to be around other parents that are going to be, well, let's just say, suffering also. There's going to be other screaming kids. There's going to be things built into this experience like changing stations at every turn. There's going to be ways for moms to do like what they do with pumping and stuff with their bodies. And there's going to be someone that's going to hand a kid an ice cream cone when they're screaming and having a total meltdown. So when you're doing something that's surrounded by a way that can accommodate the lifestyle choices you're making, and
this sounds glorious.
Think about our community of OKS Hunter. We have a community. We literally have an OKS Hunter crew. We have like 100 people that have like vowed to be brand accolades or acolytes, whatever. What's the word we're looking for here? Doesn't matter.
Accolade.
Thank you. Yes. So having that support system gives us the breathing room to feel like we can take that pressure off. So it's not necessarily completely tactical, but I put on a dad bod shirt the other day, and I'm not super proud of my dad bod because I took a lot of pride in my fitness and my physique, and that is not a thing right now. And
Sure,
I put on my
take pride in fitting this bush light in your mouth.
Well, but I put this shirt on that said
that
dad
ball
bod.
has been left way behind at the goal line.
Well, and suddenly I feel like
ya.
it's okay. Hey, I'm wearing this dad bod shirt. I'm part of a community now. Like there's other guys, and they're like, cheers to that dad bod, bro. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I've left one community and I've joined another one. Like to have a support system is important. And our community provides that, so I think that's critical. I think, I know people that aren't on social media at all and they never were. So like they don't have to deal with that hard switch of trying to leave it behind. That's a big friction point. That would be difficult to do if you get some joy out of that. So that's my 2 cents on the topic.
I would agree. I think it's community and having a message that's out there, right? That's different from maybe mainstream and what we see a lot of, whether it's YouTube shows, on other hunting shows, what's on is Instagram with the grip and grin with the, huge bucks, just understanding that there's other messages out there and having that visible for new hunters or wherever people are at in their hunting journey to see. I think that's the release point for me personally. And I hope it is for other people too, because I don't think it's realistic to ask people to delete Facebook and Instagram. I mean,
turn your notifications off maybe, but yeah.
Well, dude, I'm telling you, I'm going to differ with you because it's my career and I deleted the Facebook app and the Twitter app off my phone. So I haven't been able to take Instagram off, but just taking Facebook and Twitter off of my phone. So if I still need to do something for work, I can get on my computer and do it. But by removing the apps on my phone, I have been able to still maintain my job and keep my career, but dramatically improved my mental well-being because the impulse stuff, like you've got 10 minutes randomly or 2 minutes in a line and you flip open Facebook and start scrolling. Like I was able to eliminate that, and that has been super tangible. And like I said, Instagram would be great. That's the next one on my list. But I'm telling you, it is doable and it has helped me. So for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, that is good. Greg, what about you?
What about me? What about Bob?
Baby steps.
No, I think surrounding yourself with good people. I mean, there's a group of 4 of us. We had our whole group chat going all fall, and you kind of feel bad for the one guy that couldn't make it out. And I'm posting pictures of being in the stand, and I can tell his gear's got to be grinding a little bit, and it's not to poke at him, but maybe he can live a little vicariously through my pictures or something.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not out there, but I hope someone else. I hope you're.
Yeah.
Like
So you got the right attitude for it. Not everybody will have that same attitude. And I enjoy sharing what's going on. It's not to be bragging about it or anything. It's just, hey, this is what's happening out here. But having the right people in your core circle, that's probably one of the biggest things.
Yeah. For sure.
Sharing the okayest moments with you guys, like when I mess stuff up bad, because normally I don't share that stuff.
Then I turn them into gifts.
Myself, I don't tell my other hunting buddies who are like hardcore. Like I don't tell them that I messed up, dropped my climbing stick 20 feet, and it dinged off everyone. I'm not telling. But when we get together, our group text, I'm like, guess what I just did? And it feels good to let go of that stuff and know you're not getting judged.
No,
it feels good.
Yep.
Imagine having to admit those things to tens of thousands of people every day on YouTube or podcasts. That's a whole lot of fun.
It's great when the relatability door opens up and suddenly people start like sharing their stories with you.
Oh yeah.
And that's where it's like, oh well, this isn't that bad.
It's that, or they look at it and go, you know what, you guys aren't for me. Okay, we're not for you. That's fine.
Well, there's certainly a lot of people that do like that kind of thing because, I basically have been living the okayest hunter, at least results side of things since I started this whole thing. Like I've been making more mistakes than anyone and talking about it. And I always joke that a guy walked up to me, not a guy, a friend who's also in the whitetail world, who said that I had cornered the market on failure in the deer hunting industry. So I've kind of made a name of this thing, and somehow people have stuck with me. So there must be something to what you guys are saying. But I want to do something. I want to do like a little bit of like an on-air exercise of sorts here. let's do something. I don't know if it'll work, but we're going to work through this as like a group project out loud. We're going to think through this idea. Let's say
I do anything and just the rest of the group carries me.
I want
guy.
I know all the projects, man.
I want to write the 10 commandments for being an okayest hunter. So for someone listening right now who's thinking, yeah, you know what, this resonates with me, I want to lean more into this approach to hunting. If we could think of like 10 commandments, 10 rules, 10 words or phrases to live by, let me hear what you guys have. And I'm going to take note. I'm going to keep track of what our 10 are. And if Eric has an idea and Greg, you think it's horrible, please call him out and tell him how horrible the idea is so that we can narrow down the 10 best ideas.
All right. I'm going to kick us off with the first thing. And I think that it's important to not take yourself too seriously.
I like that.
Don't take yourself too seriously. You just already made way too much pressure on yourself.
Perfect.
Lighten up a little.
Remember why you started.
Number 2, remember
Where
why
you
you
came
started. Keep them coming, guys. I'm liking this. I'm writing them down too.
I would say never pass on making memories. That's what it's all about.
Never pass on making memories.
Shooter buck is in the eye of the beholder.
I like it. Shooter buck's in the eye of the beholder. All right, that's 4 of 10. You're 40%
I'd
of the way
say-
there.
Congratulate people you don't know. Like everybody says, good job to your buddy, but like make a habit out of congratulating anyone and everyone just to build the community aspect.
Yes, it's going to be way better for the community.
You'll enjoy it. They'll enjoy it.
Yep.
Everybody will be happy.
I don't know why it is, but it seems to be, it takes a lot more energy to be hateful and a disrespectful jerk than it does just to be nice and come over and talk to somebody. You never know. You might make a new friend.
Oh, yeah. Man, don't you ever wonder, like, who are these people that have the time and energy to talk trash on social media?
Yeah.
Some people cowboy.
Some people have literally admitted
in the basement in his underwear.
Yeah. No, some people literally admitted that they just, honestly, it's like that scene in Dark Knight. Some people just like to watch the world burn. Some people literally just want to stir the pot, and they're not even like actually upset. They're just poking you to get you upset.
Why?
Man, I don't get people like
Because it's
that.
entertainment for them. It's weird. I'm like, man, you're a jerk.
That's sad.
Gosh,
That's 5 out of 10.
more here, guys.
You got
You're asking the wrong crew to do this.
No. We'll come up with something.
And just funnel me in the right direction, but something along the lines of like bring a buddy or like bring someone with.
Yes, mentor somebody.
Everything. Well, not even. It's always better when you have somebody to share it with.
It is. I mean,
whether you're successful or you're not successful, it's always better.
you came with me on that one hunt. I mean, you and I were on a bunch of hunts together this year, Illinois and here close to home.
You guys were with me in spirit when I was surrounded by all those bucks.
Right?
You're texting
You were,
us. What the
you were
heck?
calling us.
Dude,
You were
That
calling
was
us.
intense, but that was fun. That was so fun.
Yeah, we're on our way down to Illinois, and Eric's calling us. I'm like, why are you calling? Dude, there's a buck down here. What do I do? Seriously?
Hang up the phone.
shoot him.
Go after him. Go after him. Yeah, I think along the lines of go with friends, because friends are always going to be there for you. You know, point in case I shot that doe, you were there with me. It had been a bit of a drag getting it out by myself. It wasn't terrible, but we were a ways in there. So
I think always be learning is important. You know, the moment you think you know it all, you should probably just stop to your hunting.
yes,
You got to just keep an open mind overall.
And I think enjoy that. I think I would add, like, always be learning and embrace that. Like, don't feel bad that you don't know it all. Actually get a kick out of the fact you've got more to learn, right?
And Mark, I think you got it just talking with Eric and like hearing his mindset. But the okayest hunter isn't just like a bunch of groups of bad hunters. Like everyone who I feel like listens and like is along with us on the Jersey, everybody wants to get better. Like there's no way that
I want a big deer.
Everybody wants to get better.
Everyone, they're here because they want to learn something. They want to get better, right? Like the okayest hunter is not just a bunch of jackasses walking around the woods. Like people want to get better. Having that goal is like an important part, and people's goals just differ.
Yeah.
Can I throw one in? I'm not part of the official
please,
crew,
please.
but let me
Brett?
say if this will pass the test.
if you want to.
I think don't say anything if you can't say. Well, what's the old phrase? Like if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. I mean, it goes back to the congratulating people you don't know. But like, hey, if you have a thought on someone else's buck online, you don't think that they waited long enough, or you think it's too small, or whatever, you think the shot placement wasn't great, keep that to yourself. Like, we don't need any more negativity out there, right? Like, lead by example.
Yep.
Yeah, I think
It goes back to every situation's different. You don't know what happened there.
Yeah, so I would say mindfulness of the hunting journey, like if that's a thing, and that's for
mindful.
yourself and for others. Like, again, taking that pressure off yourself. Maybe your hunting journey has changed. You're on a different course for a little bit. Like, it's okay. It's okay.
Never pass up a chance to hunt with family.
Mm-hmm. That's important.
Like you mentioned the Iowa thing before, Mark, and I kind of related to that. Like, you get a chance to go hunt somewhere really good, but if you have a chance to hunt with family, I think that's far more important than chasing a big deer, because you don't know when the next time you'll be able to enjoy that moment.
Like, it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah,
That's like
Celebrate failures
yes.
is
I mean,
one.
literally, like, celebrate failures.
hold
It's
on.
okay to
Now we're at 12.
make them.
Now we're at 12, guys.
Yeah. Overachievers.
Extra credit there.
Yeah.
Maybe that's because we can't.
I get it. I like that.
Eric
okay.
can't count. He already
Do I-
had his shoes off.
Do I got a shot of bourbon for that?
I'll count the beer cans over there.
This is good stuff, guys. This is good stuff. So let me read back the 11 that I captured. Okay. And then if you want to cut any one of these from the list, you can. But this is what we have. This is a really nice way of getting a synopsis of our conversation here today. Number 1 of our 10 commandments to being an okay hunter: don't take yourself too seriously. Number 2, remember where you started. Number 3, never pass on making memories. Number 4, remember that a shooter buck is in the eye of the beholder. Number 5, congratulate people you don't know. Number 6, bring a buddy. Number 7, always be learning and enjoy that. Number 8, if you don't have anything nice to say, keep it to yourself. Number 9, be mindful of the hunting journey and how everyone's is different. And number 10, never pass up on time with family. And then extra credit was celebrate failure. What do you think? Is that a pretty good list?
We got the okayest 11, not the 10 commandments.
Yeah.
You can cross out 10 and make
That's
it visible. It's crossed out.
It's a good old. That's a true 11 pointer right there.
Yes,
That's a
sir.
good one. That's a good list.
That's pretty good stuff. So guys, this has been fun. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you have a burning desire to get out there? Is there something that you really wanted to talk about that we haven't yet? Or do you feel like we've got a sense of how to really embrace the okay side of the hunter in each of us?
I think we captured the essence really well, and if we wanted to go on, more, maybe that's great for another go around at some other point where we could get on some hot button topics that have been boiling up. But I don't think that's a good fit for how we just wrap this thing up right now.
So then,
Don't paint.
where can folks go to tap into what you guys are doing? Where can folks find more of your content?
Everywhere. But no, you can okayesthunter.com, and that's OKAYEST because I say it fast. We have okayesthunterpodcast.com as well, but really you're going to see us on TikTok, heavy Instagram, heavy Facebook. We have a couple of groups on Facebook, the Shooter Buck Club. We have the Okayest Hunter crew. People can join if they want to really kind of get close to the community and have that camaraderie, and there's some benefit to being in that community. But we're on Giphy. If you go on your iPhone or Facebook and you type in Okayest Hunter as a GIF, you're gonna find some Derek spitting out some sort of tree nut or something weird.
It was my snack, okay?
Yeah. Or Greg.
It was a pine cone.
Greg swinging on a vine.
Tamara.
We're really so we're I think fairly omnipresent across the digital
Twitter.
space.
Twitter too. We're on Twitter.
We're proud of Twitter,
Yeah, I like Twitter.
Awesome.
Instagram.
Awesome. Awesome.
The Wired Hunt podcast.
There you are. There you are now. Well, thank you guys. Eric, Derek, Greg, Tyler. This is just what I needed tonight. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And that is a wrap. Appreciate you being here. Thanks for tuning in. I enjoyed this one. I appreciate you joining me. It's going to be an interesting year. I'm going to be looking at a whole lot of different things within my hunting life, right? A few weeks ago, we talked about how I'm re-examining how I shoot. This week, we're talking about how I'm going to re-examine somewhat of how I approach my season and the goals and stresses and all that around of it. I don't know. A lot of change for me. Interesting stuff. Hopefully this is something you can relate to, learn something from, or just laugh at. I don't know what it is, but I appreciate you being here with me through it all. So until next time, Thank you, and stay wired to hunt.
As you know, the Meat Eater live tour is on April 23rd through May 5th. Chances are in a town near you. What you may not know is you can win tickets to each of these events just by going to a backcountry hunters and anglers pint night. There's going to be a pint night in each of these towns: San Diego, Salt Lake City, Tempe, Anaheim, Boise, Sacramento, Missoula, Portland, Tacoma, where you can compete in Meat Eater trivia and win not only tickets to the show, but a chance to be on stage with all of us. So get your butt to a pint night, and we'll see you on stage.